Okay, so this week I'm really excited to talk to you guys about communication in marriage, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I've learned when it comes to communication and how to improve communicating with your husband, as well as a couple of the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully there are people that can relate to some of my struggles. If not, then it might be coming for you, not to like try to hope doom on you, but like everybody gets a turn, right? And marriage goes through ebbs and flows. So if this is like your first year of marriage, then maybe it hasn't happened. Some of the stuff hasn't come up yet, but if you've been together for long enough, then they definitely have. So I'm sure that you can relate. So as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't, so you can keep up with these videos, and share, and also comment below if you have any questions, or well, obviously comments, because it's a comment section, but if you have any extra advice or notes of encouragement that you want to leave other people that might be going through some communication breakdowns in their marriage. So let's get started. Have you ever been on a date with your husband and just been sitting down at dinner and thought, I am so bored? Have you ever been bored on a date with your husband? Or have you ever just run out of things to say and panicked? Because I have. I think it was probably year 2. I hope it was year 2. And like the beginning of it though. And we're sitting at dinner and I had nothing to say, nothing. And inside me, I was just going crazy. My mind was panicked. I was thinking, oh my goodness, what does this mean? I don't have anything else to talk about. I'm boring. Is he bored? He has nothing to talk about. What does that mean? He has nothing to say to me? We have nothing to talk about. What does that mean for our marriage? This is over. Is the rest of our marriage gonna be like this? Will we have nothing to say to each other? This is terrible. Y'all, I freaked out in my mind. It was bad. And I was just telling myself, just get through dinner, girl. Like, you know, silence is cool. That means you're comfortable. That's good. I mean, who doesn't like being able to have a relationship with someone where you can sit in the car and just drive and not have to force conversation? You can just be. Here's the problem. We were on a date. You feel me? So we're like sitting across from each other at dinner, and I'm trying not to pull out my phone, but I definitely don't have anything in my head to say. If I'm the only one that's dealt with that, let's just pretend like I never said it. How about that? Or have you ever had a conflict and you didn't know how to address it or bring it up, and it kind of feels like trying to jump in when like people are spinning like a jump rope, and you're like, this isn't good. This isn't a good time. Okay, should I? No. But you know you have to have a conversation. You just don't feel comfortable because no time ever feels right, and you just want to segue. I think it's women, like we like for the setting and the mood to be right for a lot of things, sex included, right? We want like the entire day to kind of build up to it, and if it's not that, then it's like, okay, let's just try again tomorrow. It's not like a spontaneous thing for us. And the same thing with conversation for me. If it's gonna be one of those really tough or personal conversations, I don't know how to ease into it. And what happens is it all just kind of melts together. Or have you ever just in general felt uncomfortable in your marriage when it comes to communicating? Have you ever had a breakdown of oh my goodness, where a conversation starts one way and then it just goes left, and it's like you say something. Okay, I've said things to my husband where I didn't mean anything by them or anything negative, but like it just, the conversation just turned and it was out of control, and I didn't know how to even bring it back. And you start saying, whoa, 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 like, wait a minute. Yeah. And then I'm usually left evaluating, like, what did I say? Oh, how did I say it? Here's the thing. Have you ever been accused of making a face that you don't know that you made? I don't know. He'll be like, well, you said that, but then I know your facial expressions. Apparently not, dude, because I don't. So, if you can relate to any of those things, then let's talk. Okay, so I wrote down, or I typed out, because phones. Y'all, Charlie body slammed my phone to the ground. And after that, I've let go. And it's just cracks all over the place. And do not message me talking about you should get a case. It's a little too late, okay? All right. So I jotted down 3 truths about your husband. Number 1, men are, okay, let's start that over. Run that back. Men compartmentalize everything, okay? Not in a deep way, but like in a way where there's work, right? And then there's marriage, and then there's family, and then there's me time. I'm able to understand now how he can be on his phone, right? On his phone doing something, and he's supposed to be watching Charlie. Charlie can be like crying in the background, and he has no idea. And then I keep calling his name over and over, and then it's like something just switches on in him, like the volume comes back on, and he's like, oh, Charlie. But men compartmentalize. So what does that mean for communicating with your husband? That means that we have to think differently than how we're inclined to think. So with me in communicating, I have a tendency to merge a whole bunch of stuff into one conversation. And I know that it can frustrate my husband, because we'll go from talking about what we're doing for the day to what do you want to eat tonight to this bill is due to let's talk about the budget. It just and also, like, what do you want to do this weekend? Let's go out, let's have some fun, let's watch a movie. Here's the problem. Since they compartmentalize things, it's easier for them to have a conversation with you when there's already preset topics, and there's not going to be work meshed with play. Number 2 truth. Men react more than they act. I got something in my eye. Okay, so me and Jonathan were in the middle of a conflict, and it was because I did something and I said something, and based off of my actions, there became a conflict. He reacted. He turned the situation that I didn't know was a conflict into a conflict. There have been many occasions where he'll respond to me, and he's always waiting for my lead. And men tend to go off of your lead when it comes to conversations, verbally and non-verbally. They are reactionary. They are always trying to help you to fix things. They look for the conflict in your life, right? And you tell your husband a problem, and you usually have to tell him prior to. I just need you to listen. I don't need you to try to fix anything, because if you complain enough to your husband about your job, how many of you know he will show up at your job? Or he'll be like, one day he'll be like, well, quit. It was like, whoa. Calm down. But men are very reactionary. So keep that in mind when you are, when you're communicating with your husband, so that you'll be mindful of your nonverbal and your verbal communication. And also know that most of the time, his attitude towards you, positive or negative, is a response based off of how he thinks, what he thinks you're giving him. So number 3 truth to keep in mind with communication is that your husband wants to please you in all things. And when he feels like he can't, not when he feels like he doesn't, but when he feels like he just is not able to, then he shuts down. So in conversation, in arguing, when he feels like, that it's a lost cause, men tend to shut down way before we do. We're still trying to like, what, no, wait. And yeah, you're right, fine, whatever. They want to please, but when they feel like it gets to the point where they don't think that anything that they do is pleasing, they don't think that they're funny anymore, so they stop trying to be funny with you. Because they're funnier when you're dating, and then they go through this weird phase where they're not as funny as they used to be, and then it picks back up. It really does. But yeah, when they don't feel like they can get a response out of you, then there's certain areas that just start to shut down, unfortunately. So with those 3 things in mind, I'm gonna go through some tips that I really want to share with you guys in improving communication in your marriage. Just keep in mind that these things need to be practiced, and it's not a quick fix, because anything that we do quickly isn't really a part of our character, and it will fall off. So remember that you can't fake this stuff. First tip is that there are more things to say than I love you. Just honestly, when I didn't know what else to say, okay. When I didn't know what else to say, I would usually fall back on I love you, because it felt like it was like, I don't know, it just saved from the awkwardness and quiet of it all. Here's the problem. If it's not obvious, if you continue to fall back on I love you, it loses its meaning. So try saying I love you is fine, but it doesn't really express anything when you say it a million times, right? So try things like, okay, what do you love? Like, I love when you blah 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 blah. I love that you are dot 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 dot. And here's what I noticed when I did that. It helped me to appreciate my husband more, and helped me to really reflect on what I love about him, but also it helps him to be affirmed. Number 2, learn to stay on topic. And I already talked about that, right, when I talked about how men compartmentalize. Charlie doesn't like fresh green beans. She's like, no. But she likes pork chops. So here's what I tried to do, okay? On the same fork, I put the pork chop in the front of the fork, and I put pieces of the green bean in the back of the fork. I figured it would all go in her mouth at one time. She was chilling on it. Here's what happened. The first few times, I think it was twice, first 2 forks of it, she ate it, but you could see on her face that she knew something ain't right with this. And then after the second one, I tried to give it to her again, and she rejected. So then I tried just giving her the green beans, and she was like, no. Then I tried giving her the pork chop, and I thought, okay, we'll just forget it. We'll just have pork chops. She didn't want the pork chop either. Why? Because now she's associated the bad and the good together, and she just decided, it's cool, I don't need to eat. I'm just fine. I'll just wait till the next meal. So hopefully I haven't ruined pork chops for her. But it's the same way with our conversations and how men can perceive them. Sometimes we feel like, oh, if I'm just gonna slide this question about the electric bill in here. We try to just slide it in because like he's already laughing. It's just, it ruins, it taints conversations and communication with your spouse. So yeah, just stay on topic. Laugh whenever you can. But not only that, laughing with your spouse, but also choosing laughter over frustration. I'm just putting my husband out there, just out there. My husband uses towels one time. When I see a bunch of towels in the shower, like literally, y'all, he uses the towel one time. He takes a shower and then that's it. Now, there's probably somebody watching, a couple of people watching like, yeah, that's what you do. However, like, I feel like you couldn't get 2 uses out of that bad boy, like, because I'm the one that's washing the laundry, and like, I have to wash towels every week because you take a shower every day, and then sometimes you take 2 after you work out, and that's a lot of towels. It could be easy to just get frustrated about it because how many times am I gonna have to wring out all these towels and wash all these towels? And I could choose to be frustrated about it, but you know what? That junk is hilarious. Like, you really feel unclean because, like, you covered the towel in soap. You can't use it twice. It's covered in soap. That's how I think. Now, you might be thinking, no, Ryan, there's lots of bacteria on there. Like, I get that, but I feel like if you like wring it out, right? Wring out all the water and let it hang, let it dry, you're good. Just one more time. I just wring them out and take them and put them right in the washing machine. The end. Because, I mean, that's what we do. Practice eye contact. Yo, I'm so bad with it. I'm better now. But there was one point when me and Jonathan were engaged and he called me out. And he was like, babe, you can't even look at me, like, talk to me and look at me. Yeah, because I would like avoid it like the plague. And I know I'm not the only one. So y'all be having problems with it too. I don't have the problem when other people are talking to me. When I'm listening to you, oh, you're gonna get right in the pupil, like right in the retina. I'm looking into your soul and I'm listening because I want you to know I'm listening. But when it's time for me to talk, I'm down here and I'll come back, right? But I'm over here. So my husband challenged me and called me out. And yeah, so I've been since then working on my eye contact with my husband because it creates intimacy. Even if it's not one of those serious conversations, it doesn't have to be intimacy in a sexual way, but just being personable. And this is your spouse. This is your forever love, right? So, yeah. All right, I've got 2 more. Uno, dos. Listen and ask questions. And really, listen to ask questions. Try to ask at least 2 questions after they've said something. You don't want to always be a me too type of person. Sometimes conversations can be like a give and go. Like, I'm gonna tell you about something traumatic that happened in my life. Okay, when you're done, I'm about to match it with an equally traumatic experience in my life. Like, why? Then you're just going back and forth. You have eternity to share all of that stuff. But this is the time, especially when your husband is opening up, this is the time to really expound, and dig down into the whys and really learn your spouse. I was really good at that when it came to dating, and I felt like I knew my husband inside and out. I can predict what he's about to do, what he's about to say. But as we change and grow, the same triggers aren't there anymore. Constantly be listening and asking questions to learn the whys behind their actions and their feelings, because then you can detect their changes easier instead of just assuming, oh, he's the same. He's the same now as forevermore. That's just God. That's just God. Everybody else, everything else changes. Okay, so the last thing I believe is the most important is that you're praying together. But not just that you're praying together, but you're praying out loud but for your husband. So instead of just him praying and you letting him be the one that leads you guys in prayer, which is great, but also you should pray too, because from the abundance of your heart, the mouth speaks, right? And prayer gives me the opportunity to see my husband's heart laid out before God in a way that even in our conversations, I don't always get to see. When I hear my husband pray, within that, I hear his fears, his concerns, his passions, his love, his desires, his dreams, his hopes. Everything is wrapped up in prayer, which is beautiful. But not only that, I get affirmation hearing my husband pray. When he's praying for me, I get to hear what my husband is thankful for in his day when I hear him pray out loud. But when we first started praying together, it was very much like the cookie cutter prayer. It was like the prayer that you pray when you are praying for everybody in Bible class. You know, it's very generic. And I think it took me praying. And when I prayed, I pretended like I was the only person in the room, just me and God, and that evolved our prayer life together. And now it's like I'm about to go before God, but I'm going to take you with me, and parts of this prayer are going to be about us together, but I'm also going to express the same things that I would have been expressing without you. And it's a beautiful thing when we don't pray together, when we go long stints without it. There's a closeness that I can feel like we lost, a connection that I can feel like we lost. But that's only because our prayers together have become deeper and more transparent. Whereas before, I think if we were still doing the cookie cutter prayer, it probably wouldn't affect me if we did when we don't pray together. It would just be like, okay, well, let me do my prayer too. But no, when we have real, open, and deep prayer with each other, when we don't have it, it's like a door has closed to your spouse that you just can't get into. And yeah, so that's the last thing. That's the last thing in communicating, because you can think all kinds of negative things about your spouse, but when you know their heart and their desires towards God, it changes the way that you perceive them in conflict. So I'm going to talk about that later. But we go through so many tests in our marriage and so much conflict that can easily beset us, right? Easily destroy your marriage or your relationship or your trust or whatever. But when you know your spouse's heart and you don't have to question their intentions and their motives, then it makes things a lot easier. Definitely. Yeah. You don't feel like this is a stranger. Like, who are you? I know exactly who you are, because I was there in the most intimate, stripped down part of you. And so now I'm not going to question your heart, because I saw it. It was laid all out. It was laid out. Okay, so that's it. I pray that our communications in our marriages continue to be stronger. And that God will extend us the grace and the time to fix things that need to be fixed, and to grow us in the areas that we need to grow. So I will see you guys again next week for the next episode of Why Life. Don't forget, like if you haven't already. I really hope you have already. And subscribe if you haven't yet. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.